What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Devin the Bear. Thank you again for tuning in. And we had a very, very great weekend of some great MMA fights. And we will be getting right to the UFC 261 card. But first, we do need to discuss some good fights that happened over the week. There was one on the 1FC card on Wednesday and the PFL card that happened on Friday. And so the 1FC card was very, very good. I was excited to see it. We had John Lineker knock out Trey Wortham in the first round, who, I mean, that's why that guy's nickname is Hands of Stone. He's incredible to watch.
Yeah, it was a really strong knockout. Definitely showed why he was having the success that he had when he was in the UFC. And now he's in 1FC doing the same thing. I think it'll be exciting to see how quickly he can make his way up the ranks.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely with the thing about with the UFC when he was in there is everyone knew what he wanted to do. He wanted to fight. He wanted to throw down. They knew that he just has that God-gift talent just to put people to sleep with a one punch. And very, very scary individual. For somebody that's only, I think he's shorter than me. He's 5'3", and I'm 5'4".
He's stocky.
Yeah, he's super stocky. I mean, practically has like no neck. And so he's a little meatball, man.
Traposaurus Rex.
Yes, he is, man. He's trap god right there, and he just it was just good to see him back in the win column. I think he's gonna have some very good success over there as well.
Yeah.
And the one fight that I was really upset to see, I was hoping it was gonna be a really good back and forth, but it wasn't. Was John Wayne Parr versus Nikki Holtzkin?
Yeah, I think you had said before that John Wayne Parr is just getting old.
Yeah.
And I think that maybe it's catching up with him.
Yeah.
He couldn't get anything going.
Yeah, Nikki Holtzkin's a scary guy, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, watching him in there, I mean, he's his press conferences, he always dresses nice, always has a suit and tie on and stuff, but when he goes into fight mode, you see this guy's tattooed from his neck down, and it's like, that's a scary individual. He looks like a Russian mobster.
John Wick.
Yeah, he looks like Baba Yaga, like no joke. And but watching them two just stand toe to toe from the start, they look like they were two different weight classes. John Wayne Parr looked very undersized to be fighting somebody like Nikki Holtzkin. And he just, John Wayne Parr also didn't really adjust anything. He had a very traditional stance going in there. While these, with the 1FC, with their Muay Thai matches, also, they wear 4-ounce gloves instead of the typical Muay Thai boxing gloves. And so, yeah, he just looked like to be one step behind him. He was just taking a lot of punishment. Yeah. He got dropped twice in the first round. Then after that, in the second round, Nikki Holtzkin landed a really nice head kick.
And Holtzkin's very long and lean, so he's always going to fight really long and lean.
Yeah.
So whenever he throws something, I feel like Parr couldn't get away from it. I feel like he just wasn't quick enough to get away from it. And like I said, I think that definitely has to do with age, has to do with being seasoned. He's been doing it for such a long time. He's been in some wars.
Yeah.
So maybe it's finally catching up with him.
Yeah, I think it is. And John Wayne Parr just looked kind of out of it. He didn't move very fast. He wasn't really doing much. But Nikki Holtzkin also has a ton of power as well. I mean, we've seen that dude. When he fought Cosmo Alexandre, which is another great fight to watch, he knocked him off his feet with an uppercut when he knocked him out.
We talked about that last time. It was one of those things that you think it's only for movies. This is what that guy does.
Yeah. I mean, so it was a good job on Nikki Holtzkin. Very excited to see him fight again. Hopefully John Wayne Parr can make some adjustments. It seems, he needs to tweak his stance a little more. He needs to tweak a lot of things if he wants to continue fighting. But I think he's a legend. But when you watch legends still go in there and they do it and they're constantly getting beat up that quick, there's a lot of things to really consider. It's like, do you really want to keep doing it at the same time and mess with your legacy? Yeah.
Well, one of the other organizations that we get to talk about is the Pro Fight League Pfl. They're kind of a different organization. They do have their year-round fights, but they do something that no other organization does as far as MMA goes, is they have seasons, regular season, postseason, and then championship. And the way they do this is I think, the third year they're doing it, and they take roughly 8 to 10 guys from different weight classes and then set them up to have fights throughout the year or throughout a set period of time this season. And then getting a win gets you 3 points. You get bonus points if you have a finish in the first round. I think you get like 3 if you get a finish in the first round, 2 if you get a finish in the second round, and 1 if you get a finish in the third round. So it's not entirely about wins. It does come down to points and how many points you have scored throughout the season. So what they do is throughout the season, you score the points, you get the wins, and if you're in the top 4 of the guys that are competing in the season, you go to the semifinals, and then you have the 2 fights there, and then you have the finals. Right now they're doing, or the fights that have already happened were the featherweight and the lightweight fighters. So right now the featherweight standings, they had their fights, and I think that not one of them, all but one was decision, and the rest went, and the one fight, he is ranked number 1 right now in their season for the featherweights. That's Brendan Loughnane. He got a really nice knockout had the guy up against cage and put him out with a nice right hand. Was it a left hand? Was it a left hook?
Just straight right.
Straight right. That's what I thought.
Yeah, just right between the nose and the top lip, man. It was really,
and then,
really just.
I should say the guy he knocked out was Shimon Moraes, who, unfortunately, because he got knocked out, I would assume that's why. But because he has the same amount of points as all the other guys who lost, but he's ranked in the bottom. Then you have second round. In second place, you have Bubba Jenkins, who pulled an upset and beat Lance Palmer, who is the previous 2-time champion. And then you have Movlid Kabaliev, Tyler Diamond, Chris Wade, Anthony Dizzy, Yo Sungbin, Lance Palmer, Lazar Stowe, Jodaninovic, and then you have Shayman Moraes. It's really fun to watch this kind of layout for MMA because you're seeing the same group of guys kind of fight each other. And it's fun to watch how they tweak their game plans against the same guy. Even when they win, they know I can't go in there and fight the same because they know what I'm doing. So they definitely have to change it up a bit. The lightweight standings is going to be in first place. You had Clay Collard, who had a very dominant performance against Anthony Pettis.
Yep.
Looked really good several times.
Yeah.
Anthony Pettis had his moments. He hurt Clay Collard with a knee at some point. It was a really good fight, very exciting to watch. But Clay Collard got the win by decision. So he's ranked number 1. And then you have Ahmed Aliev, who is just a very dominant fighter. He's always going to be, if not fun to watch, he's going to make it hard for the other guy to get the win. So he's always dominant, and that's what's fun to watch about him, in my opinion. And then there's Alex Martinez at number 3, Marcin Held, Raush Manfio, Yolton Luderbuck, Nathan Schulk, Loic Radzabov, Anthony Pettis, and then Mikhail Odintsov, who has a -1 point right now. They take a point away if you miss weight. So before the fight even started, he started with -1 point. So even if he had gotten a finish in the first round, he had potentially chance to be
So if
second.
he would have got the finish in the first round, he would have got 6 points, but he would have technically gotten 5 since he missed weight.
Yeah, so they were all really good fights. Those are the standings right now after the first fight of the season. And then the next card that's going to happen is going to be the welterweights and the light heavyweights, which got a pretty familiar group of names. You have Rory Mcdonald. Everyone knows him from the UFC, from Bellator. He's got several fights that are kind of iconic at this point, like with Robbie Lawler. He had a great fight with Carlos Condit, and he was very dominant against Nate Diaz. He's going to be fighting Curtis Millender. That'll be a fun one to watch. Ray Cooper III, he's always fun to watch. Who else we have at welterweight? We have Magomed Karamov. He's really good. Another one of the Dagestani wrestlers. But I do think that he can strike. He's pretty exciting to watch. And then also at welterweight, you have Gleison Tebow. And everybody knows how I feel about Gleison Tebow.
He finally went up.
Yeah. And I think it's less that he went up to kind of make things work. I think it's more that he couldn't cut that 40 pounds to make weight anymore, 60 pounds. And then ended up weighing 60 pounds more than the other guy during the night of the fight. So now he's fighting at welterweight, and he's fighting Alexei Kunchenko, who is a pretty solid. He's a pretty well-rounded fighter. He's a good striker. At least I think he's a good striker. I think he's pretty solid on the ground. But I don't think that matters with Gleison Tibau. I think Gleison Tibau likes to keep it standing.
Yeah, and he's very hard to take down.
Yeah, so I don't think it's really going to matter who wants to take it to the ground. I don't think either guy is really going to do that. But that'll be a good fight. There's some other guys in the welterweight division. We'll go into that next time we can talk about it. But the light heavyweight also has some familiar names. They have Tom Lawler. That one's going to be really cool. He's fighting Antonio Carlos Jr. Tom Lawler's always fun to watch.
Yep.
That dude's just a fun guy. Another light heavyweight fight is Chris Camozzi. He's fighting, and yeah, it's weird seeing his name pop up again. I feel like it's been so long since he was in the UFC. Then you have Emiliano Sordi that he's fighting Chris Camozzi, and then Vinny Magalhaes. He's going to be in this. So I expect to see some dudes tap out. He's going to be able to catch him, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, he has such a strong jiu-jitsu background. It's crazy that his dad actually has a gym within like 20 minutes away from us also.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's got a pretty cool history with Gordon Ryan. That's fun to look at. Gordon Ryan is a very prominent jiu-jitsu guy. I definitely recommend looking him up. He's just a fun dude. And one of the greatest jiu-jitsu competitors.
He's trained with some of the best, man. John Danaher, I mean, just to name one, but that guy was bred for greatness. He's fun to watch. He's kind of an asshole. If you like that shit talk, if you're into that, that aspect of combat sports and that entertainment, he has it, but he's just good. And
I would say the reason it makes it so entertaining when he does talk is he doesn't say anything that's not true.
Yeah.
Typically what he says when someone tries to call him out and say, he goes, oh, well, I beat you twice.
Yeah.
All the people that have beaten you, I've beaten them several times. Why do I care what you have to say? Who even are you? Get out of here.
He just signed a one championship, I want to say about a month ago.
And he did say that he's open to fighting MMA. They said the option is there in his contract, but it's only if he wants it. So I really hope he takes it just at least once or twice. I want to see what he can do in an MMA fight. If he sticks to strictly grappling, that's still fun to watch. So I'm perfectly fine with that.
What's crazy to think is that he has a stomach condition and he still doesn't know exactly what it is, and he's still the best in the world.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a genius. I don't know these things. Mm-hmm. But I would think that he's kind of, I don't want to say worried, but I think an idea behind not really trying to get it taken care of right now is what if that kind of sidelines him for a bit, and what if it affects his career? Because
I know he plans to complete at the 2022 World Championship.
Yeah.
And so he's training for that right now. I think that would probably mess with that.
It's a pretty tough thing to decide. Do you want to risk ending your career right now when you're on top of the world, or do you let something eat away at you? But I mean, he is looking into it. He has been going to the specialists and doctors, but like you said, they haven't been able to figure it out.
Yeah, and also I did want to point out for anybody who doesn't really know much about the Professional Fighters League, they used to be the World Series of Fighting.
Yeah, so they bought it out back in 2017 or 2018?
I think 2018. I think. I'm not too sure. But, yeah, there's also been a lot of great fighters that came out of there that have fought there. I mean, one of the top lightweights in the world, Justin Gaethje, was a champion over there. He went on an incredible run over there, fun fights. And so some familiar names also. Nick Newell fought over there. David Branch fought over there. David Branch, his first run in the UFC, he had left there, went to the World Series of Fighting, which is now the PFL, had a very successful run in the World Series of Fighting. John Fitch is over there. Jake Shields is over there. Blagoy Ivanov, he fought in the World Series of Fighting, had a very good run, so there was a little bit of hype behind him when he came into the UFC as well.
Marlon Moraes is over there, or was from there. He's done a lot of great work over there.
Marpal Harris was over there.
Yeah. That's always fun to watch. Some dude who is going to cheat, but you fight him anyway.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, a couple other names just to kind of run through for the light heavyweight in PFL season is you got Cesar Ferreira. He's in there. I'm sure he's going to do pretty well.
Yep.
That dude's just a good fighter all around.
Yeah, he's fighting for Fabricio Verdum next week. Well, this coming up week.
I think you're thinking of a wrong Cesar Ferreira.
He's fighting Ferreira, though. I know that.
Yeah. But another guy is Dan Spawn. He's in it. He's a cool dude. He was in The Ultimate Fighter. Didn't get a win.
Hinan. That's who he's fighting. Hinan Ferreira.
Yeah.
Probably related.
Okay. Well, anyway, now that that is out of the way, which I am really excited for the PFL season.
Yeah.
I'm really excited to see the rest of the names that get unveiled with this. Like I said, definitely check it out. It's a really cool format for MMA to be in instead of just like a year-round fight for who gets to be on top. It's just these guys, this is their one chance. They're going to be fighting the same guys, and they constantly have to get better in a short period of time. So it's really cool. But the reason that we're so excited is UFC 261.
Yeah.
What a wild night that was. From start to finish, prelim to the main event, early prelims to the main event. It was just a crazy night.
Yeah.
The first openly public night for the UFC events since Corona started. Everything started shutting down. The people were going nuts. It was so fun. Just listening to the chants, listening to the first time on the main card when Bruce Buffer says it's time, everyone goes crazy.
Yeah.
But what really got me is when he said, and now for the main event, and everybody goes nuts. I was like, yes, that's so cool.
You missed it, and that's what I remember. I had texted you when we were watching it, and I had said, "Is like, Matt, I didn't realize how much I was gonna miss the crowd. I always liked, I know without the crowd, it was really interesting to see it and to really kind of listen in and hear what's going on. You get to hear the punches, you get to hear the corners talking to each other, and it was. But having the crowd back is just there's just that different type of hype that was behind it. It was just a different type of energy. It was so fun to watch. I remember just sitting there getting goosebumps from these guys just going crazy because the crowd was having so much fun. I remember you would throw just a jab and the crowd's just going nuts.
Yeah.
They're just so happy to be there, and it was just even the fighters felt the energy for that the crowd was giving off.
Yeah, the first fight on the main card.
Yep.
I guess we can go ahead and jump right into it. But the first fight on the main card was Anthony Smith and Jimmy Crute, which we talked a bit about last week. The excitement from the crowd when Anthony Smith walked out was awesome. And then to see his face and see his smile and how excited he was just to be back in it, the first thing he does is walk out near the crowd, take his hat off, and give it to someone.
Yeah.
Dude was almost naked by the time he got to the ring. He was just so excited to be there, and he finally gets up to the cage, and he turns around, and he looks, and he's just so happy to see it again.
Yeah.
And I think they all were, but
yeah, I really like
reaction
seeing
was
him
cool.
stop. He took that break to look at the crowd.
Yeah.
I was like, man, like finally we're doing this again. And that was a very fun fight. It, hated to see how it ended, but it's super entertaining.
Yeah.
And
so the way this fight went down was you had Jimmy Crute, who's very aggressive, big guy, but he's the smaller guy in this matchup. Anthony Smith is longer, more experienced. I would say that I expected Jimmy Crute to go for a takedown earlier, but he did not. So the whole first round, which is really the only fight you got to see in that fight, but in the whole first round, he's trying to close the distance on Anthony Smith, and Anthony Smith would jab him. Yeah, and that was it. He just couldn't break through that jab.
Yeah,
and then Anthony Smith just went to work from there. And about a minute left in the round, and Anthony Smith lands a leg kick right behind the knee, which locked up Jimmy Crute's leg, and it went numb, and he fell, collapsed on it, and ended up getting a takedown on Anthony Smith. Took him down a couple of times. As soon as Anthony Smith started cage walking, getting himself back up, Jimmy Crute used his hips, pulled him back down. It was really cool to see him fight through what was, at the time, no one knew what was going on. We just saw his leg buckle. And actually what happens is when he tries to step back on it, he takes the leg kick and tries to step, and it moves him to the side, runs with the momentum, and he tries to step back down, but you see his knee doesn't extend for the step. So his footing isn't there. And he just kind of falls over. And when he does try to stand on it, his foot just rolls over.
Yeah, he just
so
rolled
he
his
clearly
ankle.
has zero control over what's going on his knee down. And the bell rings, and he's got to go back to his corner. And the commentators are just like, okay, well, now we get to see what's going on. We got to see him walk back to his corner, and he can't. He gets up and kind of stumbles, and they get him sitting down. They're icing his leg. The doctors come out, and they're trying to get him to walk and walk to him back, and then walk back to them. And he's so pumped. You can tell he's fighting through a lot, and he's really like trying his best to, I don't know if he's trying to sell it or if he was just trying to have this energy that'll push through it, but he can't do it, and he ends up stumbling, and the doctors stop it.
Yeah, and then he was really upset, and he tried to punch the cage, and he fell because his foot just couldn't support it.
Yeah,
whenever,
pulled a Kyle.
Yeah, he pulled a Kyle, you know, and he just tried to punch a hole in the cage, and what happened was whenever Anthony Smith leg kicked him, it was a spot right below the knee, and it just hit him right on the nerve, and it was just...
peroneal nerve?
Yeah, the peroneal nerve, not the perennial nerve. And so... he just completely lost control of his foot, and he rolled his ankle super bad. It was swelled up immediately because he just kept rolling it, and it was good. It was really good to see Jimmy Crute. He fought through it. He still secured a takedown with only one leg, but even whenever he had his back, you could tell his knee was just and his foot
he just didn't have that support.
His knee and his foot just weren't able to be intact together. They weren't able to really plant. He wasn't able to plant himself down, hold down Anthony Smith or anything, and I really want to see those guys run it back because that was a very fun first round. But
I'd like to see him run it back.
Yeah.
I think that his leg messed up because Anthony Smith kicked it. Anthony Smith won that fight.
Yeah.
I think it's unfortunate because Jimmy Crute would have gotten control of his leggy, and after the fight when they interviewed him, they were like, what was going on, and he was like, oh man. As soon as the second round, he's Australian, so he's got this accent.
Yeah.
But he's like, as soon as the second round started, I was going to pull guard. I can't stand, so I'm just going to pull guard. And I thought that was hilarious. That just shows what kind of person he is. He there's no quit. And I think that's really cool to see. I think he gained a lot of respect. I'm a big fan of his, so I like to see that. I don't want to see him hurt himself, though. So
no.
I am glad the doctor stopped it because I don't think pulling guard is...
Yeah.
a good thing.
No, especially not with somebody like Anthony Smith. I know that Jimmy Crute has great jiu-jitsu. He's jiu-jitsu black belt, but Anthony Smith is a wizard on the ground. People just don't know it.
Yeah.
I mean, he's been around for years. So he's got over it's his 51st pro fight last night.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And I think if you go back and you look, you realize he is great on the ground. He's got some submission wins. He really is good off of his back. So you put him on top because you pull guard. I don't think Anthony Smith does this. He's too nice. But what happens if the guy grabs your foot and goes back for a heel hook?
Yeah.
What's going on with your foot that you don't know about? So I think it's a little dangerous for him to do.
Yeah.
But really, really cool fight. Bizarre ending, but kudos to Anthony Smith for landing a very well placed leg kick.
Yeah. He was just piecing him up too beforehand. I think he was on his
everything kind of led to Anthony Smith is going to win this fight.
And which is really crazy to see Anthony Smith doing so well. A lot of people were going into the John Jones fight, kept calling him a journeyman. Yeah. And so now he's showing that, no, I'm not just a journeyman. I'm a top-tier fighter. I'm supposed to be at the top. I don't know why I keep picking other people over me, which is kind of funny when he talked about that. He was calling out guys like, he's like, y'all, out of 12 of y'all had picked him over me. I don't know why. But, but it was very good to see the sportsmanship. And Anthony Smith was very, very hyped to get a win in front of a crowd again. Yeah. So I can't wait to see either one of them back. I hope Jimmy Crute, whatever happened, hopefully it's a very fast recovery for him.
Yeah.
So,
speaking of legs and recovery,
we
have to get to a very frustrating one, a very sad and tough to watch because it's so grotesque.
Yeah.
But also because it's so sad to see this result for this fight. Yeah, we had Uriah Hall and Chris Weidman fight, and it really it's the technically I think it's the second strike thrown. I think Chris Weidman did kind of feint a jab, and then 17 seconds in he throws a leg kick that he really geared up for. He really put it in there and just broke his leg in half on Uriah Hall's check.
And if you have a strong stomach, go and look it up. Will see
it's I'm sure it's all over the internet.
It's everywhere. Yeah. I mean, it's a gruesome injury. You hate to see that happen, especially somebody who's as respectful as Chris Weidman,
the freaky thing is how identical it is.
Yeah.
How absolutely identical it is to Anderson Silva's leg whenever he got his leg kick checked by Chris Weidman about 8 years ago. In fact, we posted on our Instagram, Devin the Bear, a picture kind of side by side showing you the positioning of their bodies was the same.
Yeah.
It's the opposite leg. Anderson Silva's was the left leg. Chris Weidman's was the right.
Yeah.
But the positioning of their body, the way that they threw the leg kick, everything was just identical.
Yeah.
So a lot of people are making kind of scummy remarks, saying, "Oh, Chris Weidman deserved this after what he did to Anderson. It was karma." I never really felt it. Never really sat right with the way he beat Anderson Silva and then celebrated it. Give me a break.
Yeah,
this dude just beat. First of all, he knocked him out in the first fight, and everybody called it a fluke. So it's like, okay, it's Anderson Silva. He deserves a rematch. I understand that. Yeah. You check a leg kick. The idea is to hurt them to make them stop. How much damage could you do more than breaking their leg in half? That's exactly what Chris Weidman did.
That's the point of checking a leg kick as well.
Yeah. So I think for people to be mad at Chris Weidman for celebrating a win over someone like Anderson Silva, and this was before Anderson Silva really had very many losses at all, very little to none, and to act like he was celebrating Anderson's leg broken. No, he was celebrating a win over Anderson Silva.
And that's the thing is, I don't think he realized how serious the injury was. We've seen guys stop.
As soon as he walks around, he sees what's going on. He's like, "Oh, he's still down. Let me go."
And he's trying to he's trying to console him, you know, because it's a freak injury. I mean, this guy just broke his leg in half, and he broke his shin bone. He broke his tibia and his fibia. And I don't think Chris realized how severe the injury was. And the second he's trying to console him, if you go back, this is what I also noticed too. Herb Dean ref both those fights.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, while we're talking crazy facts about that, look at the last two guys that Uriah Hall has fought. Yeah. Anderson Silva and Chris Weidman. 3 leg injuries like that in that kind of situation in the UFC. 2 of them are Chris Weidman, or at least Chris Weidman involved.
Yeah.
It's such a weird thing for such a crazy, like you said, freak injury to happen. And there's so many factors that are the same. Yeah. Everybody called Uriah Hall young Anderson Silva. His last fight was a finish on Anderson Silva. Now he's fighting Chris Weidman, who broke Anderson Silva's leg. And that's the second time it's ever happened in the UFC. And now the third time it's ever happened is, quote unquote, the young Anderson Silva, who last fight was against Anderson Silva with the same ref that happened when Anderson Silva's leg broke. Yeah. And then Chris Weidman was the one who broke his leg, and now he's got his leg broke. Same ref. It's so freaking weird.
And it's a rematch between these two. On top of that,
it's a rematch. So maybe Anderson Silva's living vicariously through Uriah Hall. But actually, Anderson Silva is very respectful. He tweeted saying, how much of a warrior Chris Weidman is, and it sucks to see that happen, and he really hopes for a quick recovery. He said that and gave some nice words to Chris Weidman and his family. Yeah. Uriah Hall did that as well in the post-fight interview. Uriah Hall was shocked and devastated because he needed this. They both needed it. They needed a good performance to keep moving their careers forward. They need to move their careers forward with where they're at right now, and neither of them get to do this now.
And that's what was kind of crazy hearing, Uriah Hall talk about it. It's just like he felt immensely terrible for what happened. You never want to see these guys kind of go down like that at all. You never want anybody get seriously hurt. Yeah. Especially in a sport that can be a very unforgiving sport. And see, Uriah Hall even talked about it. He said that the second Chris Weidman threw the leg kick, he did mention, he's like, I have very good defense. I can know when to block. I know when to be able to check a leg kick. So when he threw it and I felt it hit my leg, I knew he broke it. I felt him break the bone on my leg. And he said it's happened to him one time in training. He broke somebody's leg just by checking the leg kick. And it's really tough to see, and I don't know what's next for Weidman. I really would like to see him retire. I think he'd be a phenomenal coach.
He will be. He will be a fantastic wrestling coach. Yeah. I'm not saying he would be a great striking coach, but he'd be a good all-around coach because the dude knows his fight IQ is great. Yeah. Like we had talked about before, all of the fights that where he got caught, he was winning that fight up until that moment. Yeah. So I think, he'd be a great coach. I don't want him to retire and not fight anymore, but I want him to be safe. And I don't want to keep seeing him get injured.
That's why Anthony Smith was in the middle of his post-fight press conference whenever Chris Weidman broke his leg. And you hear what Anthony Smith's talking, he's answering a question, and you hear the crowd going crazy. He's like, what just happened? And they tell him like, well, Chris Weidman just broke his leg in half. And you see his whole demeanor change because he's friends with Chris Weidman.
Yeah.
He mentioned how he spent half of the training camp
together.
with how they were training together. And he even said, I don't know how Chris Weidman has ever lost. He's very, very good. He's a great fighter. It's nuts to see how he has ever lost at all. And he's taught him a lot. But, man, I just hope the best for Chris Weidman. Whatever he decides to do, I hope is just the best for his health. And it was just a very gruesome injury. I feel like this one was much worse than the Anderson Silva one. Just the way it was just hanging there. He just tried to step back on this. You see his foot is in a whole different spot when he tries to step back on because he doesn't realize he broke it until he put that pressure down on the foot.
And you see the broken bone, and you just know it's tearing through all kinds of flesh. And hopefully no nerve damage is done. Hopefully there's no ligament damage.
Yeah.
Fat chance of that, but I really hope it's nothing that serious.
Yeah, for sure. So for our next fight, we had our first title defense of the night. Very, very good fight. I enjoyed it. I like Valentina Shevchenko. She beat Jessica Andrade in the third round, by TKO. And it was kind of what we expected. We expected Valentina Shevchenko. She's just a student of the game. She knows so much, and she loves to go out there and beat people at what they're good at.
Yeah, and Andrade is great on the ground. She's so physically strong, but she's a great grinding fighter. She wears you down and then beats you. And Valentina went out there and pulled Andrade's own cards against her, and it was very dominant.
Yeah, excuse me. I got it right the first time. It was the second round. I messed up. But yeah, so the second round. But it was just total domination by Valentina Shevchenko. She just tied the record for most takedowns in a women's flyweight fight.
And could have easily gotten more if she wanted.
Yeah.
They were there for her whenever she wanted.
That fight was going,
The 2 times that Andrade tried to pick her up, that's what Andrade does. She picks him up and then throws him on the ground. She tried and failed, and Valentina just, okay. Anyway, moving on. And then she tried again, and Valentina's like, all right, well, I'm going to just turn this around now.
Yeah.
And immediately took her down. And it was like, what in the world is going on?
And even on the feet, I mean, whenever Andrade would throw a kick or a punch, Valentina saw it coming, and she would just move out of the way. She would just hop out.
Way too fast for her.
Yeah.
There was at one point, Valentina throws a combination. It was in the first round. Valentina throws a combination, and after it lands, and Valentina's already stepped back into her out of the pocket, that's when Andrade starts to dodge. And I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
I'm not saying Andrade is slow, but that was the slowest reaction I've ever seen in a professional fight.
It was just, man, it was a very, very late reaction to somebody who's so quick like Valentina Shevchenko. She just levels ahead of everybody else, and now it's becoming and I thought Andrade was probably going to be her toughest challenge, but a lot of people are saying that. I think something about that lit a fire under Valentina, and she just went out there and just completely dominated, and she's just world class. It was like watching somebody hold a master class, honestly.
Yeah.
And, I mean, she took like very little damage in that.
What's crazy is not only how easily she was able to take down, and often she was able to take down Andrade, but she got her in a crucifix, which I'm not saying that is impossible or near impossible, but against someone like Andrade with her ground level, you would think she would have it in her to stop Valentina from doing that. And that's not at all a knock on Andrade. That's just saying how good is Valentina that she can get a crucifix that quickly and easily.
Second TKO as a champion in the crucifix also.
Yeah. As soon as she started raining down punches, I was like, oh man, she starts throwing elbows, this is over.
Yeah.
And then she started throwing in elbows, and Andrade tried to fight out of it. Valentina readjusted, and those elbows came faster and harder, and the ref stopped it.
The second she started throwing those elbows very, 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 very quick, you see Andrade, she started busting her open. Yeah, she started bleeding. It was like, yep, this is about to be stopped. And you don't want to see it get stopped because you feel like that fighter still has fight in them, but she's not intelligent at feeling herself, which is such a hard thing to do.
Well, that's kind of the thing with the crucifix position, is you take that ability away from them.
Yeah.
Anytime you take that ability away from them, it doesn't matter what you do. You can't defend yourself. The ref had to stop it.
I remember the first time I ever saw the crucifix position, it was Joe Stevenson. He did it on somebody. I was like, man, dude, that is like gruesome. It's intense.
First time I saw it was Gary Goodridge.
Really? Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Back in the day in the gi.
Yeah.
Got him in the Goodridge from the back. And Valentina's was on the full mount. So it was a mounted crucifix. Gary Goodridge had it from the back. So he had the guy's arm in between his legs and arm locked up with his other arm, and then just started elbowing furiously at the side of this dude's head. And it got stopped. The guy ended up going unconscious, and he got knocked out.
It was a very vicious knockout.
It was dirty.
Yeah.
Gary Goodridge isn't known for being a super clean fighter, but this is one of the cleanest fights I think he ever had.
Yeah.
He was just that much better than this guy.
And yeah, it was just insane. It was just nuts to see that position. It's weird that it doesn't get used as often. John Jones has done it before. He did
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's not that it's impossible to do, but it's very hard to do when you're at that level.
Yeah.
So you don't see it super often. It's just like the twister. It's a submission where you lock someone's hips in place with your legs, and then you grab their opposite shoulder and you start wrenching their body so you push their hips in one direction, and then you move their shoulders into the opposite direction, so it kind of twists their whole body. It's not necessarily an easy submission to get, but it's one of those where it's very situational, and you get it because the person was sitting in a position where it makes sense. And I think the crucifix is the same way. I think once you lock their arm up a certain way and you see it's there, you go for it.
Yeah.
But oftentimes the fighter on the bottom they're like, okay, well, I see this is coming. Let me just stop that from happening. And Andrade just couldn't stop anything Valentina wanted to do.
Yeah, and so it's crazy to really wonder what's next for Valentina. I mean, she's cementing her legacy, and that's one thing I did like that Dana White had says. Like, I think because everyone's talking about how great Amanda Nunes is, which she is. I mean, that's the greatest female fighter of all time. But he even said that they're both cementing their own legacies. You can't compare them. Yes, they have fought before, but I mean, they both have so much going for both their careers and their legacies that you have to consider both of them some of the greatest female fighters of all time, the greatest fighters of all time, even then, and so it's definitely something to keep in mind. It's comparing apples to oranges. They're in two completely different weight classes now, and it's going to be interesting to see what's next for Valentina. I'm excited to see it. Whatever's next for Jessica Andrade, whatever she does is going to be fun. It's going to be exciting. She's going
to be successful. Yeah. She's just a good fighter. I saw a funny joke, and this will be a decent segue to the next fight, but I saw someone say it's so hard to tell who is the best women's fighter right now. We should just have a triple threat match between Amanda Nunes, Valentina Shevchenko, and Rose Namajunas.
Do it. Book it, Dana.
Yeah. And that like I said, that segues us to the next title fight, which was Rose Namajunas fighting Weili Zhang.
I don't know, man.
It's so hard to talk about these fights.
It's funny because this is the fight that one for sure that I had Weili and you had Rose, and
if we recall, I had Rose winning by knockout in the first round.
Yeah,
and I'll say it just like I said it again last week. 2 minutes.
Yeah,
2 minutes. She won within 2 minutes. She knocked her out with a head kick, one of the cleanest head kicks there ever was.
Yeah. She threw that thing like it was a freaking jab, dude. That thing was so fast.
It was so fast. It came at such a perfect angle right through the guard from a lower position, so you would think that it's going to hit the body, and it slips right through the guard and goes right across her jawline, chin to chin, and Weili Zhang was out, fell flat backwards.
And she snapped. It was almost like when she threw it, she just wanted to touch her with it. It wasn't like she followed through with it. She was like, I just want this to be quick. And whenever we were kind of watching it, and watching in slow motion because it was such a dirty knockout, such so clean, so crisp. And whenever she throws it up, it's just you see her eyes go into the body, and Weili's watching her. So her Rose's eyes are going to the body, but then she looks up right at her chin and touches her right on the chin with it. And you just see Weili just go completely limp. The way she fell was just, man, it was a vicious fall. It was a great.
And Weili she's always going to have a tight guard.
Yeah.
She's always going to be hard to hit because she stands so tightly. But she really likes to power forward. She likes to be aggressive and be the stronger fighter. So against someone like Rose, who doesn't always rely on her strength. She just relies on her very flow style striking.
Yeah.
I think that Weili Zhang really wanted to go in there and put it to her.
Yeah.
So her guard, like I said, it came from a low angle. She was looking at her body, like you said. So I think Weili's guard was open a little bit. She was standing a little wider because she was ready to start going in and throwing hooks as soon as this kick came away, or maybe catch the kick and start closing the gap and throw hooks. But she was just not expecting it at all.
Yeah,
no one was really.
No, I wasn't at all. I was like, I didn't know what just happened. I was so thrown off because it was so fast,
Well,
and the
guess
kick was just right through her
I was
guard.
expecting it.
You were expecting it. I was not expecting that at all. And it was insane to see. It was just right through her guard. She had both of her hands up. It's just that perfectly placed right through the guard, right between her hands, right to the chin.
Yeah.
And then I know that Weili Zhang had, she had disputed the stoppage.
She was pissed.
She was very, very upset, and it's very hard to see because she's a good sport. She's just, very.
And it sucks that it was Keith Peterson who was the ref. He was also the ref for the Anthony Smith fight, and he's been the target of some unkind words from fighters before.
Yep.
So he's just
Keith Peterson. Anytime he's in a fight, it's a meme. It's a joke every time.
Yeah.
Not that he is a joke. I think he's an incredible referee, but
He's
always
great. Yeah.
there's always going to be a remark whenever he's refereeing
Yeah.
because Dominic Cruz said he smelled like alcohol and cigarettes when Dominic Cruz got knocked out by Henry Cejudo.
And the meme I saw almost immediately after the fight was Weili wasn't mad that the fight got stopped. She was mad because Keith came in her face with his breath smelling like alcohol and cigarettes.
And so it's just, but that's the thing. A lot of people really don't get with Rose is she's not just a forward or backward fighter. She can move angles.
Yeah.
She can cut angles, and she's just able to do so many things so good. That's why she was able to knock out Joanna in the first round.
And again, her strikes flow so well. That's exactly why she was able to knock out Joanna. If you watch that combination, it's crazy.
Yeah.
As Joanna's kind of crumbling to the ground, she lands that kick on her across her face.
Yeah.
And it's just dirty, but it's so clean.
Yeah.
Everything she does just flows really well together. So I think people always underestimate her when it comes to striking. They are always going to underestimate her. She's usually a little undersized for her fights. She's very calm and soft-spoken.
Mm-hmm.
She says some wild things like better dead than red.
Yeah.
So
She likes to punch her husband in the face while he's sleeping.
Yeah, singing Lion King. But I mean...
And one of my favorite moments was when Pat Barry, her husband, is in her face and he's telling her, like, tell me who's the best.
Yeah.
She's like, I'm the best. He's like, that's right, you are the best. And I just saw one of those that just was incredible to see just the support she's had to have in this career. I mean, she has incredible coaches. She has a great backing with Pat Barry. Trevor Whitman, who is just, I'm already calling her right now Coach of the Year, but...
It's hard to say no.
Yeah. I mean, it's only April. And
again, a great segue.
Yeah.
Not to walk away from the Rose Namajunas win just yet, but I think that we do have to talk when we're talking about Trevor Whitman.
Yeah.
Trevor Whitman coaches Rose Namajunas through. This is the second time she's been a huge underdog going into a title fight, and then gets a very dominant knockout win. And now Trevor Whitman, on the other hand, and coaching a person who's already champion in Kamaru Usman, fighting Jorge Masvidal. Masvidal very showing a lot of the same exact signs that he showed when he knocked out Ben Askren in 5 seconds with a flying knee. This fight came up, and when it started, you have both of them kind of going back and forth with decent exchanges. I think that Masvidal was really waiting for that right combination of throw. Anytime that Kamaru started to step in, he had his left hook ready.
Yep.
Jorge had the left hook ready. But I think Kamaru's jab was there for him all night.
Yep.
And that set up the knockout in the second round.
That right hand was there too. That straight right.
He landed the straight right a few times before that.
And Masvidal was just kind of trying to laugh it off a little bit, but it's like, no, that's connecting.
No.
And it's just funny because I was actually watching the UFC countdown on Monday, and Masvidal said he hasn't fought somebody who's hit so weak as much as Usman has. And so
he said that he was like, the toenail, or the toe next to your pinky toe. Yeah, that's the toenail that had a bruise. That was the only way you could tell I had a fight when from my first fight with Kamaru, is the little tiny bruise I had on my toenail.
Yeah, how's that neck and that jaw feel today?
Yeah, probably pretty bruised up, I imagine.
Yeah, I mean, it was just Kamaru Usman showed that he is on his way to be the greatest welterweight of all time. Right now, I would say he's top 2 greatest of all time in the welterweight division, right behind GSP. And
you put him over Matt Hughes?
I do put him over Matt Hughes. I do. I just
I don't know, man. Okay, look, it's one of those things, just like with like Michael Jordan and LeBron James. It's hard to compare them.
They each have their own legacies.
Is different.
Yeah.
So I think at the time, Matt Hughes was beating people at their own game. He
Yep.
was beating people dominantly, and he was finishing all of them. Kamaru was starting to do that.
Mm-hmm.
I think Matt Hughes, I think the way that he was beating like when he was beating Gracie's, Royce Gracie, is crazy to see a wrestler go in and do that, to do what he did to them, to see all these things Matt Hughes did. He was beating BJ Penn. He beat GSP, who was supposed to be the next big thing. Turns out he was. But yeah, I think Kamaru, as far as the welterweight legacy, is right there with Matt Hughes.
It's always so hard to compare.
I wouldn't say surpass him yet. I think if they end up sending him to face Colby Covington, and he wins, I could see he's starting to pass up Matt Hughes.
Yeah.
It's going to be weird talking about someone who has a legacy in the welterweight division that rivals what GSP did.
Yeah.
Because GSP cleaned out the division twice.
Mm-hmm.
He beat all of the guys on his rise, and then he beat those guys again as a champion, and then he beat all the guys who were up and coming or kind of rediscovering who they were as a fighter. He went back and beat them all again.
And that's what we're about to see with Kamaru Usman. I mean, right now, like he said, he's lapping guys right now. I mean, he's doing incredible. And just to kind of get back to the fight, there is something that, there's a couple things he does need to work on, which I think he's working on for sure with a coach like Trevor Weidman. But his 1-2 is just incredible. His jab and his straight are just great. But he does need to work on his hooks a little bit. They were looping towards the end of the first round.
They were looping, and he was leaving himself real open,
Yeah.
which is not something you want to do against someone like Jorge Masvidal.
Not at all. And I think if Masvidal would have just took the chance to throw something out there to connect with that, he probably could have hurt him really early.
Yeah.
But
I ended up texting you saying, like, oh, man, Masvidal's going to land something clean.
Yeah.
Because, there were so many moments where he could have. He just didn't. He reeled it back in.
Yeah.
And I don't know why. I wouldn't know what was going through his head. But I think
he saw the opening, just didn't do it. Like we talked about before, it's just, there's going to be a mistake that these guys make, and they're going to make sure not to do it again,
Well, I think Kamaru kept doing that same mistake, but Masvidal wasn't picking up on it quick enough to be able. Maybe he just didn't feel like that was the time.
Yeah. And so maybe he just wasn't ready to throw it just yet. But he's probably waiting for it to happen again. But
I'll say this though: it's never the time to showboat and act like that guy's not hurting you.
Yeah. The guy's tagging you up.
Caught. That's how he got caught.
He hit him with, I think both times he stung him with that right hand. I mean, they were both very, very heavy shots. One of them almost put him on his butt whenever he hit him with that right hand.
Well, one did.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And so just to lead up to that, I think it was just a little over a minute into the first round. The second round. And Kamaru, what he was doing was just Masvidal, he kind of does a shoulder, like kind of push out of the way. Whenever it's a boxing movement type thing that he does.
Yeah, boxing shoulder roll.
Yeah, he does that boxing shoulder roll, and I think that's what he tried to do because Masvidal's going for Usman was going for the left hook, but he just yanks down Masvidal's hand like a freaking lever, and just when he's pushing to Kamaru's power side, which is something you don't want to do with somebody who has a straight right like that.
I've done that connecting. Before, and I got my nose broken.
Yeah, and it's like I'm sure I've done it before. I'm sure I would still do it, and so it's just. It was really weird to see him make that mistake, and Kamaru Usman just lands probably the cleanest right hand against a guy who's never been knocked out like that, and just you see Masvidal's lights immediately go out. He's unconscious.
And that's something you see in movies. Like you see a right hand land like that in movies. If you watch Here Comes the Boom, they land like 50 of those right hands in one fight. In real life, you land one of those right hands like that, they go out. Yeah. And that, like I said, I think that jab really set up that right hand. He threw that hand out there, the left hand, the jab, and Masvidal reacted. And like you said, Usman pulled down pulled down his hand with his jab or with his left hand, and then threw in the right. And it was over. It was
while he was falling too. That's what I had said. Is just you could tell he grew up in Texas because he hit him with a linebacker shoulder while he was falling. You see, he just
flattens him out.
He just flattens him out. The way Masvidal's ear touches his shoulder because his head just goes all types of weird ways. He's unconscious, so his neck just snaps to the left, and then he falls on the ground. And Kamaru, just being as smart as he is, he gets on top of him, and starts raining down hammer fists, and you can tell that Masvidal's body, his mind and his body are trying to work together, wake him back up, but he doesn't know where he's at. He doesn't know what's going on. And eventually, when Herb didn't get in there as quick as he could, he he was out. You know, those hammer fists eventually just caught up to him very, very quick. But
it took a couple minutes, and Masvidal was asking what happened.
yeah, Masvidal had no respect at all for Kamaru Usman's power going into that. He couldn't believe that he got knocked out by Kamaru Usman, and they had to actually show him the replay to for him to say, "Oh yeah, I guess he did knock me out," and that's when he was a lot cooler about it. And so he was just very understanding about it, and there's a lot of respect between the two. I mean, Masvidal even said, like, he got me. There's nothing else I can say about it, and I'm excited to see what's next for Kamaru Usman, what's going to be next for Rory Masvidal. I mean, there's a lot of things going on. There's a lot of talks now. I mean, Masvidal just put on a great performance. It seems like every fight we're seeing him now, he's finishing fights a lot quicker.
Yeah.
He's looking more comfortable in every aspect of the fight. He's able to get Kamaru down. He's able to land some very, very good shots while he was on the ground.
So if Covington gets the title shot, you think Kamaru finishes it faster?
I think so, yeah. One of the things that I've noticed since the first time that Covington and Usman had fought is because you always want to see somebody get better in a fight. That's the whole point, is these guys want to be their best version of themselves. And since that fight, you've seen Kamaru Usman come out and he's improved every aspect of his game since. He's a whole different level fighter than what we had saw when he beat Covington. And now you see now whenever you see Usman, he's a whole different fighter, but Colby Covington's still the same fighter. You know, he didn't really change anything up too much. I mean, he's been very successful. He did have a very dominant win over Tyron Woodley. But you have to start changing things up. You have to start showing improvements. And Usman is the only one that's showing improvements right now.
Well, I would say, not that I'm necessarily arguing with you, I'm not. You're absolutely right. But since their fight, Usman's fought 3 times? Or
yes,
4?
3.
3?
Yep.
And Covington's fought once.
Yeah.
Right? So you can't say Covington has improved if he's not fighting.
Yeah.
We don't know that he hasn't improved. He beat Tyron Woodley, which is always a hard thing to do. But, you know, Vicente Luque just did that.
Yeah.
So it's not as impressive as Kamaru Usman going out there. You know, Masvidal took that fight on 6 days' notice, but so does Usman. Usman he was prepared for someone else, and he took the fight on 6 days' notice, just like
With a
Jorge
completely
did.
different style of fighter.
Yeah, so he went out there, had a dominant win against Masvidal, and then now he's knocked out Masvidal in the second round, and he's got a knockout win over Gilbert Burns. So yeah, he definitely is showing improvement. So Covington better, if he gets that title shot, he better bring his A game, and he better bring something new to the table.
Yeah.
Masvidal didn't bring anything new to the table.
Not at all.
And that's why Kamaru was able to put him away, like we said last time. He's got to bring something new to the table, and we just didn't think that he would. Yeah, he's fought Usman once, and now he knows what to do. Didn't really show that.
Yeah.
Usman also fought Masvidal once, though, so he knew what to do, and he went in there and he did it. So Covington better come in there with something different. He's not going to take Kamaru down.
No.
That's not going to happen.
Neither of those guys are going to take each other down.
No, I don't think Kamaru is going to feel the need to take Covington down.
Yeah.
But I think that if he wants to, it's there, and he does it. I don't think Covington stops him. Covington's got great wrestling, but I don't think he stops Usman from taking him down.
And that's the thing we're going to see also is, you know, the same exact shot that broke Covington's jaw was a straight right. And now that shot's knocking people out, you know. And
So, like you said, Usman's just getting better.
And he's doing exactly what you're supposed to do whenever you beat somebody and you're going to rematch them. You are righting your wrongs. Because a lot of times when you see people rematch each other, they really, whenever the winner doesn't typically work on certain things to fix those things that he did wrong in the first fight. And so we're going to see that because the loser has a lot to learn, and they're going to know how to fix those things. And the loser's going to, as long as they come into the rematch knowing, hey, I this is what happened, I need to fix this. And while the winner is just, well, I won the fight. That's a couple of these guys' mentalities. But I think since then the game is changing, and these guys know, especially somebody like Kamaru Usman, he is a student of the game. He wants to get better. He wants to prove it. He's the greatest welterweight of all time, and I think he's on the path to do that. It's always interesting to see it, and I mean, I'm very excited to see this guy fight again. I'm excited for that rematch. That's one of my favorite fights.
We were talking about. Or go ahead.
Yeah, if anybody listening has not seen that fight, go look it up. I'm sure it's UFC actually promoted it. Kamaru Usman versus Colby Covington, and it's just a great fight.
It's a free fight on YouTube.
I'm sure it is, because I think they were hyping up one of his fights, and so UFC will typically do that. They'll post these fighters' really good performances to go ahead and
they got to hype up Covington too if they want to sell that rematch.
Yeah.
And I think that even though Covington got knocked out, it's still a good fight. It's a good performance by him, so I don't see why they wouldn't.
That's probably one of the first fights they post.
Yeah.
Whenever that fight is made official, and so I mean, it was just all around great card. I was, hope the best for the guys who were injured, to the people who won that, y'all showed why y'all are champions. And so
what I'm excited for is to see if Kamaru Usman is still champion once Sean Brady comes around.
That's going to be good.
Because I think if that happens, right now, I don't know if Sean Brady is able to take down Kamaru Usman, but I think he does pose challenges to Usman that Usman's not going to be expecting with someone like him. He's a lot faster than I think people expect.
Very strong.
It's going to be fun to watch that happen if it ever ends up happening. I think there's a lot of guys in welterweight right now that Kamaru Usman will have to deal with soon.
Yeah, and so I mean, there's the welterweight division is a very fun division. The more you look into it, and it's always one of my favorite divisions are like the lightweight division and the welterweight division. They're Shark Tanks. These guys
historically, those two divisions have always been some of the best.
Yeah, these guys they're some of the best fighters in the world. And the welterweight division might get shooken up a little bit. We're gonna see. Nate Diaz has a fight against Leon Edwards, who's right there for title contention. Which I wonder I hope this pushes something for Leon Edwards to be next for the winner of Colby versus Usman too.
Yeah. I really want him to win. I don't want to do... and I'm not trying to hate on the Diaz brothers too much. I really am not. But I don't want to see... I think where Nate Diaz should be at in his career is he shouldn't be trying to fight ranked guys unless it's a fight that builds up his legacy.
Yeah, something that makes sense also.
I don't think he should go in there and fight a guy because it makes sense for a title picture for him. I don't think he should be trying to fight for a title unless it makes sense.
Yeah.
And this doesn't make sense. I don't say he beats Edwards. It just doesn't make sense to give him a title shot.
Yeah,
but that's what they're going to do.
Because I like him a lot more at 155, honestly. But the thing is, he has a lot of issues with these wrestlers. And look at the guys who are at the top of that division.
Nothing but wrestlers.
Yeah, they're grinders.
And then look at the guys that are up and coming. Sean Brady, these other guys, they're wrestlers.
I mean, I like the Diaz brothers, but at this point, it's just, what exactly are you trying to establish? Y'all been gone for a very, very long time, and that's where the relevancy comes in.
Nick when was the last time he fought?
Yeah.
It was his Anderson Silva fight?
Yeah. That was 2013.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's going to be interesting to see that. I might be wrong on that. I think it was between 2013 and 2015. But it's been a long time. And the thing is just, Dana White had said last night that Nick Diaz was sitting backstage waiting to talk with him. He wants to fight. And there's rumors that he'll be fighting Khamzat Chimaev, which is going to be a very exciting fight. I'm going to love that fight.
If that happens, I think Nick Diaz... I think that granite chin finally gets cracked.
Yeah, he's fighting a guy who knocks guys out at middleweight.
Yeah.
And Khamzat is not a small guy. I'm happy to see that he's back. I'm happy to see that he's healthy.
His coaches are fired up too, just as much as he is.
Yeah.
He said that he was like, I had 1, 2, 3 fight in the UFC. Mm-hmm. No one got to see who I am. So
we haven't seen
I'm excited
the start
to come
of
back.
him. Yeah. And so I think that's definitely going to help. Because I think Khamzat does win that fight if that fight is made. But it's just we're going to definitely see that he is a force to be reckoned with. And we'll see what happens. I mean, there's already talk about him fighting Kamaru Usman, which I think is still too soon. I think he needs a lot more fights before he's fighting Kamaru Usman, because a lot of those guys who are going to be next to the fight of the title have earned that right to be next in line for the title shot.
And then you have guys who have been really active, working their way up the rankings, and like Chiesa. Yeah, I think Chiesa is going to be knocking on that door real soon.
I would like to see him rematch Rory Mcdonald. They fought lightweight.
One of the things that I want to see, which this isn't going to happen because Kevin Lee's all over the place, but I really want that to end up happening. Kevin Lee move up and fight
Yeah.
Chiesa in a rematch one day,
That's-
because I want Chiesa to win that fight.
To
I think
show
he
that the first one was a fluke.
Yes, and I think it goes similarly with Masvidal. I think Masvidal can knock out Chiesa.
Yeah.
But I think if Chiesa wants to tangle up and bring Masvidal to the ground, he does it and he submits him.
Which is something that even Chiesa pointed out last night with that boxing shoulder roll that Jorge does. He tried to do it to Chiesa, and Chiesa is not a striker. He is a strong grappler, and he knows he is. And he even said, he's like, I rocked him when he tried to do that to me. And that says something about his style. It's just, it's not working, and he keeps trying to implement that. And so I like Michael Chiesa a lot. So I would like to see him finally boost up his stock a little more. I mean, so
he's right there. He just had a win recently, so I think he's right there. And I think one of the next fights he needs to have is a big name. I think he needs to have a big name fight. I think it makes sense, and it's very cool if Nate Diaz was fighting Michael Chiesa right now.
Yeah, I feel like that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so, but yeah, I mean, I'm excited to see how this plays out. I mean, we will definitely see the next guy who will be getting a winner, Colby versus Usman, with May 15th with a UFC 262 card. So that's when Leon versus Nate is set in Houston. So it's going to be a very, very exciting card. One thing that I did see, which doesn't involve the welterweights, but I texted you about it Friday night, was Adesanya versus Vettori too. Has been made official.
It's official, or they are both agreed on it?
Yeah, I think it's agreed. I don't think it's official yet, but it's an announced bout for that card, and I am very excited for that fight.
I am too. Like we talked about before, I think Vettori and Whitaker, both of these guys kind of had to figure out what they want to do. Bless you.
Thank you.
Both these guys had to figure, not both of these guys, but the UFC had to figure out, do they fight each other, or does Vettori fight Adesanya, or does Whitaker fight Adesanya?
Yeah.
They went to Whitaker first, and I completely agree with this, and I respect it. I think he turned down the title fight against Adesanya because it was too soon.
Yeah.
He just had a win, and then the title fight would have been in June. It would have been in June. But the thing is, he's overseas. Vettori is too.
Yeah.
Vettori did fight recently as well, but I'm perfectly fine with this. Whitaker turned it down because he didn't want to have to leave his family again, quarantine for 14 days, fight, come back to his family, quarantine for 14 days, and then get to join his family. With
the rules that they have over New Zealand, he has to wait like a month before he can go over there.
And Dan Hooker too, he had to do the same thing when he fought Poirier.
Yeah, and whenever he fought, who else did he fight? When he fought Michael Chandler, he went in there, got knocked out, and he had to wait a whole month sitting on that.
Yeah, it's rough. So I don't blame the guy for not taking the title fight.
I do not like the agenda that Dana is trying to push, that he doesn't want to fight him. It's like, it's not that he doesn't want to fight him.
Dana's always trying to push that agenda. He's doing it with John Jones right now, with that whole debacle.
If there's anybody that wants to fight, it's Robert Whitaker. Robert Whitaker loves
he's
what
always
he does.
down to fight. Yeah. And he's always down to fight for the right reasons. It's not just, I love to fight.
Yeah.
I want to hurt someone. I want the title. He wants to do it because he wants to set up a good future for his family.
Yeah,
that's his main focus, and you can tell every single time.
Yeah, I don't blame him at all for not taking that fight. I mean, he just had a great fight against Kelvin Gastelum, but to have such a quick turnaround, get back home, have to get used to the time zones and everything, adjust to that, train for Adesanya, which is not an easy fight at all to train for. Adesanya stopped him already, and I mean, Whitaker he's very game. He wants to fight everybody. He wants to be the best in the world, but it wasn't good timing for him. You're trying to rush the process of the former world champion having to beat the guy who knocked him out and was winning, who's absolutely dominating him for 2.5 rounds, for a round and a half, because it got stopped in the second round. But it was a smart call by Whitaker, and I don't know what we're gonna see, but a lot of people are already kind of saying things about Marvin Vettori, he's just going to try to wrestle him, which if you really do think that way and you feel that way, go and watch the first fight. It's toe-to-toe the entire fight.
Yeah, and that's the whole narrative with Vettori right now is, he's a boring fighter. He tries to take you down and grind you out.
Watch a Marvin Vettori fight.
What do you want him to do when he knows that's how to beat someone?
Yeah, he took that fight on short notice against Kevin Holland.
Yeah, and his fight before that was a kind of a grounded win, but he won. He
against
won,
a
and
guy
that's all
who
it
is
takes.
straight on the ground, Jack Hermanson.
Yeah,
I mean, come on, dude.
And that fight was also standing up a lot. And
that was a short notice fight
Jack
as well.
Hermansson is a good fighter.
Yeah.
Everywhere it goes. People are just kind of taking something away from Vettori that I don't think they really have any grounds to do. And yeah, if you go look at his first fight with Izzy, it was very back and forth. It wasn't just Izzy. He just had the edge because he's faster.
Yeah.
Has a great fight IQ, and Vettori's still learning.
Yeah.
So Vettori's learned a lot. That's going to be a fun one to watch. I think it sucks for any cards having to follow this last card, 261, because that freakish injuries, crazy stoppages, crazy knockouts. None of the fights on the main card went to decision, which I don't think there's anything wrong with a fight going to decision. But as far as
you want that exciting,
just the general viewers of fighting is they're going to want to finish. So yeah, I think it's a tough act to follow.
Yeah, no, that's definitely right now. That is my favorite card this year. It was phenomenal. It was just nothing but world class athletes going in there and proving why they're the best in the world. But there's just so much going on, and I'm excited for a lot of it. And one of the things that I actually did want to mention to you, even though I can't stand the guy, I think he's just strictly entertainment, and we're here to talk MMA. And the sport is DC getting Daniel Cormier confronting Jake Paul at the fight.
Deb, you need to stop right now.
Okay, sorry. Okay, you know what? I think we're going to go and cut off right there.
Daniel Cormier walked away from the booth and freaking getting in Jake Paul's face, and Jake Paul wanted nothing to do with it until about 5 or 6 guys got in between them, and then he was all about it.
And those 5 or 6 guys weren't getting between them. They were just holding back Daniel Cormier, which is very likely, I do not blame him at all. That guy is a freaking animal. And Daniel Cormier, even though he wasn't the most exciting fighter, he was a grinder, and he could beat the shit out of people. And
I would say he was very exciting when he was in Strikeforce.
Yeah,
he was beating everybody.
Yeah,
he did what he wanted.
Knocked out Bigfoot Silva, very nasty on the feet.
Look at his. This is kind of a little bit of a grinding win, but his fight against Dan Anderson.
Yep.
Picked him up, flipped him around over his head, and then dropped him on the floor.
Yep.
This guy is gonna destroy Jake Paul.
Yeah.
With a slap to the face.
Yeah, and that's what it was for me. It was pretty cool to see that somebody who he's at work right now, and he says, "You know what? I'm gonna take my tie off. I'm gonna get in this dude's face." And people were just thrown off about it, but it shows that Daniel Cormier, if he has to flip the switch, he will. All these other fighters that said, "Oh well, if I see Jake Paul, I'll do this," and it's just you got a guy who's at work getting in his face and shit, and just doing something about it, while the other fighters sitting back while watching him and doing their own thing. It's like, no, man, like he's just showing who was all talk. Yeah. And so Daniel Cormier
he's called out Daniel Cormier for some I guess some background on this feud between him and Daniel Cormier. He called Daniel Cormier fat boy and called him out.
Yeah.
And said he would knock him out. And I don't know what world Jake Paul is living in. Cool, you knocked out a guy who is known to have some of the worst boxing in MMA history. Yeah. You knocked him out. Cool. Why are you going to call up a weight class to a guy who another Olympic wrestling athlete, but a guy who will knock you out?
For claiming to be a pro boxer, you must not know how heavy a weight works. You can weigh 210. That guy still can weigh 265.
Yeah,
and he's going to fucking kill you.
But I don't think they ever fight. I don't think that ever happens.
But
Jake Paul would never agree to that.
He knows how bad that would hurt his stock.
But that being said, Daniel Cormier's never going to agree to that. He's going to be like, why do you want to fight with me, dude? You don't know me. I have nothing to do with you. I'm not doing that. I
just thought it was cool to see Daniel Cormier stand up when nobody else would. He finally said something, and it was like, okay, I'm glad that somebody did something about this guy.
Which triggered a bunch of F Jake Paul chants throughout the entire night. Again, tough act to follow for an entire pay-per-view event.
Yeah.
That's hysterical.
So, book it, Snoop Dogg, make it happen.
Yeah, make it happen, Triller. Get Pete Davidson back in there.
Calling out Jake Paul and his FBI and his sexual assault allegations.
Yeah, he's a bad man. He needs to be in prison.
Yes.
That's what Pete Davidson said.
That's so funny that he said that, though. But, I mean, I don't know, man. It was just, I was happy to see that somebody said something to that guy that is capable of actually doing something about it. So, but yeah, man, it's just UFC 261. I mean, I'll probably watch it a couple more times this week. It was phenomenal.
Yeah, it's It's too crazy.
Yeah.
Like, everything that happened was just a crazy finish to a fight.
But yeah, no, it's just I'm excited to see all these people come back. Rose is in a very, very tough division, so I'm excited to see what she does. She has Mackenzie Dern is coming up. There's
the whole thing with her is she can get the belt, but can she defend it? And that's what everybody's kind of criticism of her is.
Yeah.
So there's a lot to look forward to right now. Coming off a lot of excitement from a card like that. You have one title change. You have a lot of ranking shifting happening now. There's a lot to look forward to.
Yeah, you might see Chris Weidman retire, which, it's just hard to say. But
it's hard to watch, hard to hear.
Yeah, I think it's probably going to be best for him, though. I'm excited to see what he would do as a coach. I think that's his,
You're absolutely right, though.
Yeah,
I agree.
He would be a phenomenal coach. I'm ready to see what's next for Kamaru Usman. And it's just exciting. I'm happy for all of it. So.
All right, well, I think we're going to go ahead and call this episode an episode, and we're going to go ahead and sign off here.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for listening. Like we always say, go check out Hope Era, HOPEERATX on Instagram. That's our intro music. And if you're interested in getting any logos done, check out G Galaviz Graphics, GRAPHX on Instagram. Great stuff there. We appreciate everybody for subscribing and liking and viewing. Thank you for taking time out of your day to listen to us. Pretend like we know what we're talking about. Y'all have a great time. Thank you for listening.